Well, it's now day 12 in the Nancy Guthrie case, and instead of clarity, we've got some surveillance footage, multiple suspects, and now a third ransom note asking for a Bitcoin, which is about 60-some thousand dollars at this point. A lot going on. Joining me to discuss, Spencer Courson, threat management expert, founder of Courson Security Group, and author of Safety Trap. Spencer, thanks for being here. We got a lot of ground. Yes, we got a lot of ground to cover here, Spencer. I mean, the ransom notes, again, another one. This is the third alleged one. What does it tell you, Spencer, when someone keeps sending these notes to like media outlets, not directly to law enforcement, and then also there's no proof of life here that we know of yet?
One, we have absolutely no way to verify that the ransom letters that are coming in are legitimate. We are, unfortunately, on a timeline of forensics versus one of media or public opinion. And just because we're not seeing a lot of information coming through doesn't mean that there isn't activity. A lot of operational security, when it comes to kidnap and ransom cases or kidnap for ransom cases, is very dependent on the information flow or the flow of information. Because giving up too much information could compromise negotiations, it could compromise the health and welfare of the abductee, and it could just really impact the investigation as a whole. So while we are getting some information, the fact that we're not exactly sure how that information is being used should be something we take into consideration.
So Spencer, when you look at what's unfolded, now we see some footage here from this Nest Cam that they were able to get, even though apparently Nancy didn't have the subscription that recorded everything. They were able to go in there and pull that anyway. And so, yeah, we see it here. This footage, out of everything you've seen now, the ransom notes and no proof of life, this footage here, are we looking at something that's maybe a well-planned and sophisticated operation, or incredibly sloppy, or some sort of combo of both? What do you think?
I think at the onset, there were three working theories. One, this was a professional kidnap for ransom incident. The second was that this may have been like some kind of an inside job, a botch something, or that there was this third tier, which was this was possibly a target of opportunity that escalated into something else. They either didn't know who she was, or they weren't expecting her to be there, or they were expecting her to comply, and then she put up some kind of a struggle, and it escalated from there. And I think we are, from what I have seen and what my training, background, education, and experience are revealing to me, is that we are more in that third camp. When we look at this individual that we've been able to, that was released to the media with the Nest camera footage, this is not someone who looks like he is in control of his environment. Professionals control their environment. Amateurs improvise. And if we look at the attire, we look at the backpack, we look at the way it appears he has an automatic weapon in what appears to be a revolver holster that also looks like it should be an inside the waistband holster that he's wearing on the outside, sort of underscores the lack of technical proficiency that this individual may have. Then when we also see the news reports that there have been these incidents of trespass leading up to this incident, it's very likely that that's what this was.
Yeah, I mean, that's you do see that in the clip there. He's like pulling flowers, and he seems like he seems to be improvising. Then we have this on this one note that was allegedly sent here, Spencer. Like you said, you can't verify these things, or at least that we know of. There's been no independent verification of the authenticity of these. What do you make of somebody saying that they have information and then they won't give it unless they get this money? Is that someone who's also in on this thing, or is this, I mean, I don't think I've ever heard of somebody who's like kind of tried to say, hey, I kind of know what's going on here, but pay me first. I mean, is that unprecedented, or what do you think there?
It's not unprecedented. It's unprecedented that would actually like play out. I've never seen something like that play out. Typically how that kind of reward system works is you call in a tip line, and if your tip gets filed with your name and your contact information, and then if that tip leads to the recovery or the prosecution, you get a reward. That has been played out 100 times across the transom. I have never seen a pay to play because there's no honest brokerage there. If you are the kidnapper, what you would want to do is you would immediately show a proof of life in order to show that, one, you are who you say you are, that you have control of the abductee, like you say you do, and then you negotiate from there. What I've also never seen is in kidnap for ransom cases, which are usually very professionally run ventures, because the person who is being kidnapped is interchangeable. They don't care who they're kidnapping. They're kidnapping the person who offers the highest reward or the highest return on their investment. What I think this is more than likely is something that was a home invasion or a targeted burglary or something like that, and they just didn't know who she was. And so when this did escalate, they didn't think twice about taking her. And it wasn't until the next day that they saw a national figure saying, hey, this is my mother. Well, then what do you do then? I don't know if you remember, there was a movie some years back where the premise was that the president had a daughter in this town and he was going to visit her, but then took away her Secret Service protection so that he could go tomcatting in town. And then the girl in protest, the daughter in protest, like went to a salon and cut her hair and dyed it blonde. And she was subsequently abducted. And when they came into the command center and they had all of her historic photos and then this new photo up on the wall that they got from the salon, the director of the FBI, the operations team, comes in and goes, oh my God, they don't know who they took. And then one of the operator goes, once they realize who they took, what do? And the guy goes, they kill her, because why are you going to play this game? And so the longer that this plays out, there's two things that really concern me. One is that I always educate my clients that if they believe they are being abducted, fight like your life depends on it, because it very well might, because your odds of survival at that first location is 90%. When you are taken to a second location, it drops to 10%. And when you factor in the age, the medical requirements, the care and conditioning, the nutritional needs, the bathroom needs, the assisted living needs of this individual, or of Nancy, you start getting into a very complicated area.
Yeah, and it's, you hate to speculate, but like you said, for the reasons of the medication, especially if this is improvised, like you're thinking that it might be, right, and poorly improvised, that they didn't think to take her medications or anything like that. They probably had no idea. And right, so then now you get in this situation and, they said she didn't have much of a chance to live very long without these medications. So hopefully that they did miraculously have that. I don't know. And that she's somehow still alive.
Yeah, there's a reason we have not seen a proof of life.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, the only one of two things I can think of, Spencer, is for that is one, like you said, it's improvised and they're not sure how to do it without getting caught. Or two, she's no longer alive and there is no possible way to get proof of life. So I don't know how likely that first option is, but and
that's what kind of gives me some doubt about the communication being from the actual perpetrators, because every time you communicate in today's technological age, especially inside the United States, there's a forensic footprint. Yeah. Every phone call, every email, every transaction, everything you do leaves a digital trail.
Yeah.
And so
that's actually I'm sorry, Spencer, sorry to interrupt, but on that digital footprint, I was curious as to why there isn't more. I mean, I'm sure a lot of other neighbors have cameras, out in front of the house. And I know it's kind of a weird area. It's not like a normal grid pattern there. It's kind of random and sort of, like the houses are kind of tucked in and around curves and that sort of thing in that area. So why do you think we haven't seen more? I'm assuming they had to get an 84. They weren't trekking an 84-year-old on foot throughout the neighborhood, so they had to have gotten into a car, most likely.
No,
why haven't we seen any footage on that?
Well, one, just because we haven't seen it doesn't mean they don't have it. And two, I think what you might be seeing right now is what we would typically do overseas, or what we would do in like a mass, digital forensic intelligence operation, where we would just, now that we know a time and a date where she was likely taken, you put an overlay of every single cell phone that pinged in that area, every car that had satellite radio, every iPod, everything that emits any kind of a signal is going to get put into an overlay. And then we're going to start weeding people out. Okay, we can see from this person's pattern of life that we can rule them out. This person's pattern of life, we're going to rule them out. This person, but that takes time. Even when you have, the technological innovations of Palantir, data mining that kind of high-level data, it still takes time. And if this was someone who, was doing any kind of pre-planning or was doing any kind of pre-incident targeting or was doing any kind of self-identifying behaviors that would, kind of sign off as a red flag, I'm sure the intelligence agencies and the law enforcement assets are tracking that down right now.
So if we have a person, so let's say that under your theory here that we have somebody maybe who improvised this abduction and then it goes bad, they don't know about the medications and she dies, and then do you think it's likely that these communications that we're seeing are all opportunists, and the people that did this botched robbery are just sort of, and I know this is all speculation here, but that did this potentially botched robbery, then they just say, well, we're going to cut our losses here, and they're actually maybe not even communicating at all with the people who took her?
I think that's more likely than not. I think that's more likely than not. I'd be hard pressed. You'd be hard pressed to convince me that someone with this low level technical skill set just for the abduction all of a sudden becomes highly technical and knows how to communicate and use Bitcoin and reach out, anonymously to third party news outlets.
Yeah.
Like there's a disconnect there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the updates keep coming in, so I'm sure we'll see more. And like you said, there was that one weird clip, and Spencer, actually, this is kind of on the side, but like, I don't know if you saw this one, and actually, I'm a little hesitant to bring it up because I didn't actually go back and double check and make sure this one was actually, I saw it on X, but Savannah Guthrie, one of her clips, something she said on camera, people were mirroring it to a movie. I think it was Silence of the Lambs or something. And the wording was like exactly the same. And then I was thinking, like, obviously this wasn't, maybe was this some sort of communication? If that clip was a legitimate clip, what would be the possible scenario for why she's kind of repeating a line that obviously somebody probably made her say?
One, the FBI is involved in this case, and the original Silence of the Lambs was based on John Douglas in the beginning of the behavioral science unit, and the behavioral science unit, which is why they always like to say Mother Nancy, because you want to humanize those individuals. There are certain key phrases and verbiage that stick in the mind more than others. And so if they were coached by the FBI or some kind of K&R team, kidnap for ransom recovery team, to craft a narrative that could help with the lexical complexity of stickiness in a memory, that could be part of the reason why.
Super interesting. All right, so let's talk here about some of the lessons maybe people can take here, because this is the sort of thing that obviously you're just, I know you advise people on this sort of stuff, and I think a lot of people are just going about their day-to-day life and not thinking about this sort of thing. But what are some basic things that people can do? Because we've got these video doorbells, but as you can see, they, thankfully they were able to mine some of that data, but like that cost a lot of time. It took them a while to do that. Are those enough? Because they're on the internet.
Nancy had that Nest camera, but it wasn't connected to a subscription. So it's actually very beneficial that individual pulled that camera off, because it stopped the recording from being overwritten. She also, if you notice in the video that we're seeing right now, the outside porch light is not turned on. The best thing I can always recommend is layered security and contingency planning. You don't want your first notification to be when someone is knocking on the door. You want them to be as far away as possible. For example, at my house, once you step onto the driveway, I get a notification and a light is turned on. As you get closer, you start tripping other alarms, so that once you get to the front door, well, now you've got to contend with Ronan, and if not with Ronan, you can get to me. But one of the first things, we all remember the binomial in math class, FOIL, first outers, inners, last. That's a great way to conduct your own home security audit. Driving by your house, what are the first impressions, right? Yeah, okay, I can see this, I can see that, I can see the cameras, I can see the beware of dog sign, I can see the fence. Okay, this house is protecting a protective posture. They take their things seriously. Outers, what do you see on the outside? Inners, what do you see on the inside of your house that can act as a security system? And then last, what are the lasting impressions? One of the things that I always like to do when I was writing my book was I would go up to people in the parking lot and I would say, hey, my name's Spencer Courson. I'm a security expert. I'm writing this book. When you left your house today, how secure was your home? And they would go, oh, totally secure. And then I would say, okay, listen, I'm going to give you this like $50 gift card to Starbucks. Let me ask you one more question. If there was $1 million sitting on your upstairs bedroom and I gave you 20 minutes, could you get in, grab that bag and get out without using any of your keys? And they go, yes. So what was the difference between thinking of their house 30 seconds earlier as, yes, it's totally secure, to now, yes, I could break in and get that $1 million, is they went from thinking like a homeowner to thinking like a bad guy. Because now they're going, oh, my wife hates it when I stink up the downstairs guest bathroom, so she always cracks the window, or the kids always leave the garage up when they come home from soccer practice, or, the upstairs back deck sliding door, if you just wiggle it right, it can slide right open. All those ways that you would break into your house is exactly how a bad guy would break into their house. So just think of the 5 Ds: deter, detect, deny, delay, defend. You can do those 5 plus the FOIL network, you're going to set yourself up for success.
All right. Spencer Courson, threat management expert, founder of the Courson Security Group, author of The Safety Trap. Appreciate your insights today, sir, as always.
My pleasure. Thank you.